Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of Cheltenham Borough Council's Cabinet. I am Councillor Rowena Hay, the leader of the council. Welcome to Mr Stamp, to our meeting, and to anybody else who's watching the YouTube channel. Because we do have members of the public, I will say, if you're here to make a representation to the meeting, you are consenting to the use of the sound and video recordings for broadcasting and training purposes. And please be aware that CCTV and audio recording is in operation in the foyers and in the public gallery with recordings held for 5 months. Just to note, we're not expecting a fire alarm, so if the alarm does sound, you should immediately make your way to the nearest fire exit. So don't have any apologies because we're all here. Can I ask if any members have any declarations of interest? Stunned by the silence. I'll take that as a no. So the minutes from our meeting last week will actually be considered at the next scheduled meeting on the 8th of April this year. We don't have any public or member questions and petitions. We have nothing referred to us from the Council Overview and Scrutiny or other committees. And then this is a single agenda item which is actually the report of myself, and that's on the devolution and local government reorganisation. So moving swiftly into that, I don't propose at this stage to say a huge amount at this meeting because obviously it's going on to full council. What we're doing today is to make the recommendation that it should go, A, to full council, and B, that we approve the recommendations as they're set out in our report. So there's just a few things that I wanted to say, that in many respects, this report represents a dilemma for us. Do we step aside and let the reorganisation of our council be done for us while we focus on our day job? Or do we choose a proactive path and make a clear statement about what we believe is best for Cheltenham, our neighbourhoods and families? Local government reorganisation is a once-in-a-lifetime 50-year event. So I do believe that it's our duty as elected members to choose the latter because this is too important for the future of our borough. There are, as you will be aware, there are currently 3 proposals that are being outlined at this interim stage, and I need to stress that this is an interim stage. It's a single county-wide unitary, 2 unitaries, one in the east and one in the west, and then a Greater Gloucester model. These will be submitted to government, comprising of a joint covering letter that all of the districts and the county council have agreed with, and supporting the proposals that will be attached separately to that letter and sent on to government. I believe that our proposal is pioneering and ambitious for Gloucestershire. It calls for 2 unitary authorities, one comprising of Gloucester City, Forest of Dean and Stroud district councils, and one comprising of Cheltenham Cotswold district and Tewkesbury borough councils. And I believe the 2 proposal councils are the right shape and size to both meet the government's assessment tests, but be of the right scale to still be connected to our residents and communities. I'd also like to thank the 5 MPs, including our own MP Max Wilkinson, for showing a similar preference for having 2 councils serving the county. Moving forward, whilst this is the interim proposal, there is a huge amount more to do, not least a big piece of consultation to make sure that we consult with our residents and more widely and make sure that we're sharing. Not every council is unified around what we're proposing to do in Cheltenham, but I am absolutely convinced that what we're doing is right for us in Cheltenham and our residents, but working collaboratively because that's the only way to do. And whatever the government decide, when they decide to do, I'm sure we will all work. In fact, I'm not sure, I know we will all work to do whatever is right for Cheltenham and Gloucestershire as the wider entity. So that's all I'm going to say at this stage. If anybody's got any questions, I'm very happy to try and answer them, or even comments. Over to you. Councillor Clucas.
Thank you, Leader. Looking at the document, I think if we look at 311, we will see the importance that we have placed on having a local voice in this, because it's all very well having a huge authority that can make decisions for 600,000 people and more. But we recognise the importance of that local voice, and that's what is being built into this, Leader. And I think that that is hugely important. When we go out to consultation with our local communities, yes, we will have this document, but what I would respectfully request is that we look at having a document that's readable for people as well. And you know my views on this because we've had these discussions and I know how much you support it. So we will have a document, for example, with a reading age that is accessible to all, so people will know not just what's being proposed, but their part in our future. And I think if we can do that, Leader, then it will be terrific. And I thank you for including that in here because I think it's so important.
Councillor Telford.
I'll go into more kind of detail when we get everyone in the room for council, but I did want to kind of throw my support and weight behind this to unitary proposal, because I think it's genuinely a positive way forward. I think the risk with a government reorganisation is we have our challenges with working with the county, and we have these things that fall slightly under us or slightly under them or theirs, and there's a lot of times where decisions are being made onto us by the county council, or we're making decisions that impact them and vice versa. And this can solve that. But by making it as large as a single unitary, you're taking all the decision making away from local people and you're putting it somewhere else. And if it was a Gloucestershire-wide one, I think it would be mad. Some of the things that would have to happen if you're having a licensing or a planning application, you're having to travel from Lechlade to Lydney to try and, 3-hour round trip to have a look at planning view it doesn't seem efficient to me. And obviously one of the things they're asking for is that these areas should be the right size to achieve efficiencies, and they need to meet local needs and be informed by local views. A single unitary, I don't think, would achieve that. 2 unitaries would achieve that. It allows you to have this local decision making that's actually impacted and decided on by local people in a more concise area. And there is plenty of ways we already work across district borough councils, across the county council, and past that into things like West Oxfordshire with Ubico, as an example, where we can work collaboratively. So we don't have to be 1 unitary to do that. By being 2 unitaries as proposes, we can still work collaboratively, but actually achieve what each area wants to locally while working together for those bigger goals. And I think that's very positive and sets out ways that you can actually achieve the growth that the government wants. You can avoid some of these problems that are coming down the line. But if you do 1 big unitary, you'd be chucking everyone in a pot and hoping it works, which I don't think it would. I don't think you'd make those savings, and I don't think you'd make those efficiencies. But everything in this proposal shows how 2, and the way it's set out, can make those positive, genuine positive changes to people's lives. Thank you.
Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Leader. I think Councillor Jeffries had his hand up too, so but I've jumped in front of him. What I would say is I wholly support the proposal for a 2 unitary model in Gloucestershire for lots and lots of reasons, but the 2 main ones I'll draw out here are localism, yes, of course, to provide services, no matter what the service is, to provide it, there has to be a local sense, a local centre, if you like, to that delivery. And I think that people who live north of Breedon and people who live south of Wootton Under Edge might find it a little bit odd that they've got to go some random place in order to access their services. The other thing that I would draw out is identity. If you read the report, it does specify in there that we can't lose identities, and we do have 2, well, at least 2, but the 2 identities I'm going to talk about are the one that Cheltenham has and the one that Gloucester has. They're very different, they're both very good, they're both very necessary, but I don't think they can be lumped into the same pot. And it says somewhere in the report about 2 centres of gravity. I don't know how physically you can have 2 centres of gravity, because you might get a black hole or something, or you might get sucked into a wormhole for eternity, but never mind. But you can I think you can have those 2 centres that create the identities, and it does say what they are within the report. And you know what? That's good common sense, what it says. And I think to tinker around with that could be quite dangerous, and it would be damaging, I think. So I fully support what we are proposing as an authority.
Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you for this, the report and the documentation. It is actually quite inspiring when you read it in isolation. But let's not forget where we come from. 10 years of austerity from the previous government, and now I've got some sympathy for this government right now, because when it comes to providing services and trying to provide funding for local authorities, it's not impossible. So they're in a bit of a no-win situation. So I have a little bit of empathy for the government. But, a bit like you say, Leader, we don't have things being done to us in Cheltenham. We tend to find other solutions, and I think this is the right solution. And what we're looking at losing 7 councils, shrinking it down to 2. That seems like an obvious sort of solution, especially when you look at the identity and the place as articulated through the document. It is about keeping that local connection. And one amorphous blob covering a whole county, in my mind, wouldn't give us that local connection. I wouldn't like 2, I'd like 3 or 4 to be fair, because that's because I'm a Liberal. I like to have as much connection with the local people as possible. But the way we've articulated a reorganisation of our services in this 2 unitary model, I think is really quite inspiring to a degree, and offers some hope that actually it's not just about money saving. This is about where you can make positive changes in people's lives through those services. So that's what I've got to say, Leader. I won't be a councillor later, so I want to get off my chest now. Thank you.
Councillor Horwood.
Yes, I'm going to add my voice to those supporting this proposal, and to thank actually you, Leader, and the Chief Executive and all those who've worked on producing such an impressive report in such a short space of time. I think it's an amazing piece of work, and convinced me anyway. I think there are some really important bits of analysis in there. I think there have been arguments that you shouldn't split up social services and adult social care and education from the current county-wide model. But actually, one of the interesting things in this is the population analysis of the different existing unitaries, that even if you split the current Gloucestershire into these proposed 2 unitaries, they would still be larger than Bath and North East Somerset, South Gloucestershire and North Somerset, which are already unitaries and already run adult social care, children's services and education, and not in a particularly poor way compared to Gloucestershire County Council, I have to say, looking at the past record. So the idea that these things are necessarily done better if they're done bigger just doesn't follow for me. The other thing, and I'm going to comment a bit later on some of the other issues as well, but the other thing I'd just like to commend is the attention to the community and parish council level. And as a parish councillor as well as a borough councillor, this matters a lot to me. And I think the emphasis in the report on taking the opportunities that this offers to have a better focus on more parish and town councils or community councils in the urban area, and actually rationalising that and making that consistent, and perhaps delegating even more down to real neighbourhood level, is a really important point that's made in the report, and I think it's a very good one. And this does offer an opportunity as well. And I know, Leader, you're going to lead a governance review to look at this and how this might work in Cheltenham. And I think it's a real opportunity to bring government down to a really local level in an even more effective way than it is at the moment. So for that and other reasons, I definitely support this report, and I definitely want to take it to council. Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Atherstone.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to put on record in this Cabinet meeting that I fully support our recommendation for a 2 unitary authority, and I look forward to discussing that and all the reasons why in full council later on today. Thank you.
Councillor Doby.
Just as a footnote, I don't think this is actually mentioned in the report, but as Councillor Horwood would know, in the area of Cheltenham that we both represent, is a particular point where the Cotswolds and Tewkesbury and Cheltenham come together. And I think there's an opportunity here for us to work more intensely, more closely with those other authorities in this 2 county, if you like, two authority model that's being proposed here, to do the best for our part of Cheltenham as well. Because when you're planning things like housing, when you're planning things like transport, and we're close to Birdlit, for example, we're close to an area where there's quite a lot of housing that's being developed, sometimes just over the border, it makes sense for us to be working more closely together with those 2 areas, with the Cotswolds and with Tewkesbury, And frankly, we don't have anything to do with Gloucester in that area. So the point that Councillor Collins was making about how we have these two centres in our county, these two large urban centres that are equally important, and they both have different histories, but both very great histories and cultures. But nevertheless, we do tend to look towards Tewkesbury and the Cotswolds, certainly in my part of Cheltenham, more than to Gloucester. And I think that this two authority model actually gives us a positive opportunity to finesse some of those awkwardnesses that we've had in the past when we had separate boroughs, and now we have an opportunity to truly work together in an area which is east, currently Gloucestershire, that does hang together sensibly. So I commend this proposal.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader. I was going to save my comments for full council where they could be appreciated by more people. However, everybody else has chosen to speak during this meeting, and therefore I thought it might look like I don't support the Leader if I don't step up and also express my sincere support for this report and for the enormous amount of officer work that has gone into delivering this report. Central government is nothing if not capable of setting absurd deadlines and creating and promoting innovation purely through the means of midnight document edits that are sometimes necessary to meet those deadlines. But I think the big thing when we reflect on central government and their aspirations for growth for this country, for innovation, for having a country that can actually stand on its own 2 feet on the global stage, I worry a lot when we talk about sort of combining councils, swishing things together, rationalising things, bringing things to a point where we all have the same council across vast swathes of the country, that we lose some of the most exciting places that are driving innovation in this country, particularly within local government. So it's not, surprising for me to say that Cheltenham Borough Council's approach to finance and investment is, I think, one of the most innovative and sort of interesting approaches of any council in the country. And I worry a lot that as we talk too much about standardisation, about everyone doing the same things and doing things over vast geographic areas, that you lose those opportunities for experimentation, those opportunities for trying something a little bit different, those opportunities for doing something different to our neighbours and to our friends that we can then pass on to other councils. I think this two-unitary model leaves us more opportunity to innovate. I think it gives us more opportunities to focus on those two sort of centres of gravity which promote enormous amounts of economic growth and give them the attention they deserve, because you can't have a growth strategy for Gloucester and for Cheltenham and try and manage them both at the same time. There simply is not going to be the resource in any council, and you're always going to be juggling the two priorities. But I think this model allows you to give both of those centres of gravity and both of the communities that surround them the time and the care that it takes to innovate well and to drive real localised growth. So I do thank the Leader and the officers for this report.
Thank you. I'm not going to look around because everybody has spoken, as you rightly say, Councillor Lewis. I think just picking up on something that Councillor Horwood said about the governance review, we have already kicked that off, and we do have a group, and we are meeting with the parish councils this week, in fact, collectively in here, because we couldn't get them all dates in the diary to sort of go around all the parishes. So we just said, well, we'll just all come together with all of the parishes, and that's not just the parish chairs or clerks, it is any parish councillor that wants to come along. So it's the very start of a journey in terms of that. But at the moment this paper came out, the white paper came out, I was really clear that actually, because we only have in Cheltenham 5 parish areas, so what happens to the rest of us, those that live in unparished areas? So whatever comes out of that, whether that's parishes, whether that's town council, whether that's area committees, whatever it might be, it's important that we run that in parallel. So just another piece of work, because alongside still delivering all of our commitments that we've got in our corporate plan as well. So it's a massive next few months, but this is the first step on that journey. So I'm really pleased and thank you for all your comments. I can't tell you how grateful I am in particular to all of our officers and our partners that we've been involved with through this process. It's been a massive, none of you will be unsurprised to hear me say it's been a massive team effort to get us to this point. Burning the midnight oil, quite literally. I'm still not used to this concept of teams where you're in a teams meeting and I think I experienced that a few weeks ago when Councillor Telford was in there amending something and I was amending something and I'm like, hang on a minute, this is all, what's going on here? But I mean, that's the future, isn't it? And alongside AI, whether you like it or not. So, and it's, you know, for me, the two unitary piece will actually support as Councillor Lewis said, the economic growth within that, because we've all talked about our communities, but actually our communities are only as strong as our business and our economy and our inward investment. So they're a very key stakeholder within this. So I look forward to council and hearing everybody's views, either different or the same. But in the meantime, could I see a show of hands to approve this? Thank you. I think there are no other items that I declare that needs to be urgent. So officially close this at 5 to 1 or thereabouts. Thank you, everybody.